Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, executive chairman and owner of the Los Angeles Times, Governor Chris Sununu, now former governor of New Hampshire, watching along with us. Governor, as you see this, it's easy to say this is a made-for-TV moment, the roundtable listening session. Why is it important?
Yeah, this is absolutely critical. In a crisis, nothing is more important than transparency and communication, right? Transparency is the foundation of public trust when you're dealing with a crisis, when you're dealing with government. And what you're seeing, there's two real things, I think, that have to be brought out here. Number one, the fact that you have a president like Trump in these moments that will not just spend the time and take the questions and have honest conversations with those who have suffered and that have dealt with this on the ground, but he's going to do that with the press. We've already seen it in the first few days of his presidency. He's going to take any question and give his unvarnished answers in a very open way. And what that does, it gets people to engage. People want to watch that, and they want to engage with the news when it's on the ground if they believe it's at least transparent. And they might agree or disagree with the president, but at least they know where they're coming from. And I want to take this moment and just say, as a guy up here in New England, hats off to the LA Times. And I'm not just saying this because I'm on with Dr. Soon-Shiong, but what the LA Times is really doing is saying, look, we're going to call the balls and strikes like we see them. We're not going to play a political game. This is a crisis, and we're going to deliver the news. We're going to deliver the story on the ground in an unvarnished way. And you know what happens? For a national story, people want to engage in it. And I can tell you, people here in New England, they're reading the LA Times stories. They're reading that frontline information because it doesn't come with political bias one way or the other. During the 2020 riots, nobody wanted to read what the Seattle papers and the Seattle News were reporting because it all came with this politicalization one way or the other. Right. So it didn't seem honest. It didn't seem real. It wasn't the real news story of that moment. But I think what the LA Times is showing to everybody is be unvarnished, call the balls and strikes like you see them, match that with the transparency of Donald Trump, whether you agree with him or not, and America is going to engage in that story.
Oh, they certainly already have engaged in the story because it crystallized so much of the fires of the divide and the argument, and also what's best in America, right? That the worst of times bring out the best in Americans. Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, owner of the Los Angeles Times, with us. One thing that is remarkable about Americans is their willingness to forgive. What is required, though, is for people to come out and say, we screwed up and we're going to do better. Have you heard from either Karen Bass, the mayor, or the governor, that mea culpa of acknowledging that perhaps a lot of the policies that they had, for whatever good intentions were behind them, were flawed? And part of rebuilding has to be looking again at those policies that your papers criticized.
Well, sadly, I've heard from both, and sadly, the answer to that is no. And I think this is exactly what Governor Sununu just mentioned. I think what the public wants is complete transparency. I mean, I was the first to admit that when we endorsed Karen Bass, that was maybe a mistake. But we now need to move on and accept responsibility, especially if you're in leadership. My concern now is that I'm not hearing even direct conversations I've had with both the mayor and texts with the governor, this level of responsibility. In fact, the governor's put out words of misinformation, which is not true, and we're reporting, as you said, the balls and strikes and the facts. That's why I think we need the Leadership Council of the private sector, which I'm now putting together at the LA Times, and we're just announcing that this weekend.
I have to ask, have you guys been invited to be in any of these meetings? Typically, it's the White House advance who's involved, but normally it's the local officials who set these kind of listening sessions or these roundtables up. Have you seen any interest by them to have somebody like yourself or Rick Caruso, the developer who's working in the Pacific Palisades, and others, sort of a diverse set of political views, to be here at this roundtable and have these conversations?
No, I can emphatically say no. So, look, it's sadly, in my mind, I'm a little jaded now. It was more quasi-expected. So what we've done at the LA Times is in this Leadership Council, I've already rounded up and identified amazing people who have actually stood up and said, we want to participate in rebuilding.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.